Hare Krishna, welcome back to Shravanam Diaries podcast. I'm your host Sulalita Devidasi and we are reading teachings of Lord Caitanya by His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Prabhupada. Right now we're reading chapter 16, conclusion of teachings to Sanatana Goswami. The symptoms of a guru are described in the Padma Purana. Quote, a person who is a qualified brahmana and at the same time has all the symptoms of a devotee can become a spiritual master for all classes of men. Such a devotee and spiritual master must be respected as God Himself. Even though a person may be born in a very respectable Brahman family, he cannot become a bona fide spiritual master if he is not a devotee of the Lord. Unquote. One should not mistakenly think that a bona fide spiritual master has to be born in a so-called Brahman family. The idea is that a spiritual master must be a qualified brahmana, that is, he must be qualified by his activities. This is confirmed in Srimad Bhagavatam when Narada speaks of the different symptoms characterizing the 4 divisions of social life. Narada therein states that Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas and Shudras should be selected by their individual qualifications. In his commentary, Sridhar Swami has noted that birth in a family of Brahmanas does not necessarily mean that one is a Brahmana. One must be qualified with the Brahmana's symptoms, which are described in the Shastras. In the disciplic succession of the Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya, there are 2 great acharyas, Thakur Narottam and Shyamananda Goswami, who were not born in Brahman families, but were accepted as spiritual masters by many famous Brahmanas, including Ganga Narayana and Ramakrishna. In this way, there are symptoms which both the prospective spiritual master and the prospective disciples must have. And both the disciple and the spiritual master must see whether the other is eligible to become either a spiritual master, a bona fide spiritual master, or a bona fide student. One should then know that the only worshipable object is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and one should learn the various mantras and sacred songs. Mantras and sacred songs. The Lord then instructed Sanatana to describe the symptoms of those persons who are eligible to accept the mantras and to describe how the mantras should be understood and perfected by ritualistic performances. Then the Lord instructed Sanatana to describe initiation, morning duties, and duties of cleanliness, washing the face, brushing the teeth, and so on. The process of work and the prayers to be recited both in the morning and in the evening. The Lord also told him to describe how one should worship the spiritual master, how to mark one's body with gopi chandan, how to collect tulsi leaves, how to wash the room and temple of the Lord, and how to awaken Kṛṣṇa from sleep. Then, Lord Caitanya instructed Sanatana to describe different methods for worshipping the Lord, the 5-fold, 16-fold, and 50-fold paraphernalia. How to worship the Lord by offering Him arati 5 times a day, and how to offer food to Kṛṣṇa and lay him down on his bed. Next, Lord Caitanya instructed Sanatana to write about the characteristics of both the form of the Lord in the temple and the Shalagrama Shila, and also to write about the effect of going to holy places where there are different temples of the Lord and seeing the form of God in the temple. Sanatana was also instructed to glorify the transcendental name of the Lord and to describe the different offenses one can commit while chanting the Lord's name or worshipping the deity. In the worship of the Lord, certain paraphernalia are used, such as a conch shell, water, incense, and fragrant flowers. The Lord instructed Sanatana to describe these along with the chanting of prayers and hymns, circumambulation, and the offering of obeisances. Other topics for Sanatana to explain included following the regulative principles of Purascharana, accepting Kṛṣṇa prasadam, rejecting foodstuffs not offered to Kṛṣṇa, and not indulging in defaming a devotee who has the actual symptoms of a devotee. Lord Caitanya also instructed Sanatana to describe the symptoms of a holy man, the process of satisfying the sages, and the value of rejecting the society of undesirable persons and hearing Srimad Bhagavatam constantly. Also, to be described were how to follow the daily, fortnightly, and monthly duties, how to observe fasting on the Ekadashi day, how to observe ceremonies like the birthday of the Lord, and how to observe fasting not only on Ekadashi, but also on Janmashtami, Vamana Dvadashi, Ramanavami, and Nrisimha Chaturdashi. Lord Caitanya also instructed Sanatana to explain that it is helpful in the advancement of devotional service to avoid fast days that overlap with other days, vidha. Also to be explained were how to establish temples of the Lord along with the general behavior, symptoms, duties, and occupation of a Vaishnava. And at every step, Lord Caitanya said Sanatana Goswami should give documentary evidence from the Puranas. At every step. Thus, the Lord gave a summary of all the topics Sanatana should include in his book on Vaishnava regulative principles. Sanatana Goswami was a great devotee of the Lord, and he was directly instructed to spread the cult of bhakti by writing many books. There is a description of Sanatana in the Chaitanya Chandrodaya, where it is said that Sanatana Goswami was one of the most important personalities in the government of Nawab Hussain Shah. Sanatana's brother, Rupa Goswami, was also a minister in the government, But both of them gave up their lucrative government posts to become mendicants and serve the Supreme Lord. Externally, the brothers became just like ordinary mendicants, but their hearts were filled with transcendental, loving service and a great love for the cowherd boy of Vrindavan. Indeed, Sanatana Goswami was dear to all pure devotees of his time. Jai. We have completed part 1 of teachings of Lord Chaitanya, and we are beginning part 2. Chapter 17, Lord Chaitanya, the original personality of Godhead. Following in the footsteps of Kaviraja Krishna Dasa Goswami, we offer our respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of Lord Chaitanya. Lord Chaitanya is described as follows. He is the only shelter for the forlorn, the most fallen, and he is the only hope for those who are completely devoid of spiritual knowledge. Let us try to discuss his great contribution of devotional service. The supremely powerful Lord Kṛṣṇa becomes manifest in 5 different features. Although he is one without a second, in order to serve 5 specific spiritual purposes, he becomes manifest in 5 ways. Such diversity is eternal and blissful, in contrast to the conception of monotonous oneness. From the Vedic literature, we can understand that the absolute truth, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, eternally exists with his diverse energies. Lord Chaitanya appeared with full diverse energies, and they are 5 in number. Therefore, Lord Chaitanya is said to be Kṛṣṇa with diverse energies. There is no difference between the energy and the energetic in regard to the Lord's appearance as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his 4 associates, Nityananda Prabhu, Advaita Prabhu, Gadadhar Pandit, and Srivas Thakur. Among these 5 diverse manifestations of the Supreme Lord as the Lord himself and his expansion, incarnation, devotional energy, and devotee, there is no spiritual difference. They are 5 in one absolute truth. For the sake of relishing transcendental flavors in the absolute truth, there are 5 diverse manifestations. These are called the form of a devotee, the identity of a devotee, the incarnation of a devotee, the devotional energy, and the pure devotee. Out of the 5 diversities in the absolute truth, the form of Lord Chaitanya is that of the original personality of Godhead, Kṛṣṇa. Lord Nityananda is the manifestation of the first expansion of the Supreme Lord. Similarly, Advaita Prabhu is an incarnation of the Supreme Lord. These 3, Chaitanya, Nityananda, and Advaita, belong to the category of Vishnu Tattva, or the Supreme Absolute Truth. Srivasa represents the pure devotee, and Gadadhar represents the internal energy of the Lord for the advancement of pure devotion. Therefore, Gadadhar and Shrivas, although on the Vishnu platform, are dependent, diverse energies of the Supreme Lord. In other words, they are not different from the energetic, but they are manifested diversely for the sake of relishing transcendental relationships. The whole process of devotional service involves a transcendental reciprocation of the flavors of relationship between the worshipper and the worshipped. Without such a diverse exchange of transcendental flavors, devotional service has no meaning. In the Vedic literature, Katha Upanishad, it is stated that the Supreme Lord is the supreme living entity among all living entities. There are innumerable living entities, but there is one living entity who is the supreme absolute Godhead. The difference between the singular living entity and the plural living entities is that the singular living entity is the Lord of all. Lord of all. Lord Chaitanya is that supreme living entity, and he descended to reclaim the innumerable fallen living entities. In other words, the specific purpose of Lord Chaitanya's advent was to establish in the present age the Vedic fact that there is one supreme personality of Godhead predominating and maintaining all the other innumerable living entities. Because the impersonalist Mayavadi philosophers cannot understand this, Lord Chaitanya advented himself to enlighten the people in general about the real nature of the relationship between the Supreme and the many dependent living entities. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna's last instruction is that everyone should give up all other engagements and render devotional service unto him. But after Krishna's disappearance, less intelligent people misunderstood him. They became contaminated with the Mayavada philosophy, which produced so many mental speculators that people forgot the actual position of the absolute truth and the living entity. Therefore, Lord Sri Krishna himself, as Lord Chaitanya, again appeared in order to teach the fallen souls of this material world the way to approach Lord Kṛṣṇa. Haribo! We're going to stop here for today. Thank you so much for tuning in. The link to this book is in the description. Please check out our website shravanamdiaries.com, and we shall see you tomorrow. Hare Krishna!